Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Most are afraid of unknown depths, skirting shores thinking world flat, and with the island girls in celebration of new religion. Nobody led me or said this way. I sailed alone on makeshift raft with wind as companion. Fate for deliverance, confidence enough to assess new disposition. Seekers of lost paradise may seem fools to those who never sought the other worlds. Welcome to Momentary Zen with Zen Garcia. Visit www.fallenangels.tv. You're listening to Revolution Radio.
And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. Welcome, friends. I'm your host, Zen Garcia, this Momentary Zen here on Revolution Radio. And I'm honored to have as guests with me this evening and for the next coming 2 Wednesdays, Daniel Duval and Carolyn Hamlett, 2 of my most favorite guests. And I'm just really grateful that both of you have found the time to join us. I know that you're so incredibly busy, so I consider it a great honor whenever we get to fellowship in this way. Carolyn, are you there, sister?
Yes, I am. Thank you for having us back. Love to do shows with you and Daniel.
Yeah, it's a great time. Always quality programming, and the information that comes up is absolutely spirit led. So, Daniel, are you there, brother?
Yes, I am. Thank you for having us back. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, no problem at all. It's a great pleasure, great honor, and always a good time. And so this evening we're going to be covering a very interesting topic, and surprisingly, it's one that we haven't focused on in great deal. Of course, we've mentioned it in passing and have discussed it in the many shows that we've done in series, but definitely it's intriguing that we're going to be opening with the topic of the reptilian overlords, which that's why I read that particular passage, and then going into the dragon system, which I'm very interested to learn more about that as well. But before we do so, I'd like to give both of you the opportunity to present where people can go to find your work and your information and to support you in your endeavors. Carolyn, let's begin with you and your blog. And
my blog is beyondthephysicalrealm.com, and that's pretty much where I have my information. I just add to it from time to time. And anyway, I have an article on there that does have to do with reptilians that after the show, maybe some of the listeners would like to go check that one out.
Well, yeah, most certainly. Anything else of great interest that you've been writing on lately?
No, well, actually, I'm always writing something.
Yeah.
There's so much that I just, it'll probably never make on my blog. I guess I might as well. I'm just trying to decide whether I should make it public or not. But a lot of people have accused me of writing a book and trying to make money. I don't make a cent. But I do believe now that it is time that God has put it in my heart to write a book. Actually, I don't hear from him directly. Like I don't hear like, oh, God's talking to me, for sure. I'm hearing the word, his voice, that kind of thing. But there's sometimes, I think most people can relate to feeling that deep, that presence of him,
Yes.
that they know is him, his voice. And I did hear that. And I feel it's time for me to write the book. And like I even thought, God, I can't do that. It just seems insurmountable task. And it's like I actually heard the words with the feeling, knowing that I was supposed to write it. I heard, it was kind of like a chuckle, like, of course you can't do it by yourself. I'm going to help you. And I'll tell you what, it was like right after that, it's like things started falling into place. An artist contacted me. I won't give his name at this point. I mean, fantastic artist that has offered his artistic ability. I mean, this I'm just truly amazed. I'll just say that. I mean, what a gift from God. So we may have a book in the works here. So
Awesome.
that's the only thing new. I mean, we even have the book cover design. I shouldn't say we, the illustrator artist, and when we're ready, I'll let people know who that is. Just what a blessing, I'm telling you. So
Uh,
anyway, that's the newest information I have.
That's huge. I mean, that is really huge. And I'm really grateful that the Most High has led you to decision in that manner because you do have so much to say and you have already in your blog been bringing forth so much incredible information. And then in sitting down and actually putting it to paper and focusing in endeavor in writing a book, I'm sure that you will also, bring it more concise, concisely forward in bringing, just incredible information to the public, and I think it'll be a grand blessing to everybody. So I'm
Yeah,
really grateful that you're going to be doing that.
yeah,
That's
and
really awesome.
pictures speak 1,000 words. And the thing about this artist is he is working with me to. It's like a forensic artist, where I'm telling him. I mean, this is God working. I know God is working for through this young man, that he's able to take what I say and some of my crude drawings. I'm not a gifted artist, but he's able to draw and even animate some of the things that I've seen and experienced.
Wow.
And I think this is going to be it's going to be monumental. It's going to be awesome for people, and I think it's going to help a lot of people. That's the goal. I don't expect to be making any money off the book. That's not the goal.
Right.
And I'll say right now that my proceeds, I plan, if there are any proceeds after paying for the cost of the book, I plan to have it donated to Bride Ministries, just
Awesome.
to help support other survivors who are working on recovery themselves.
Yeah, what a beautiful, beautiful the way that all that will connect. And speaking of which, let's go to Daniel, and Daniel give you a chance to bring forth your website and also the what is going on with the Bride Ministries, because I know that when we talked last that you were in the process of bringing forth a lot of people to mentor some of those that were seeking help, and that there was a great urgency and a great need from all those that were reaching out to you looking for help in that manner and in that regard.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Zen. I mean, at Bride Ministries, we're like going nuts. And so we do have a lot of things going on. And Survivor, like the agenda to help survivors, is a huge component of that. A lot of our podcasts and the information that we're putting out is designed to help survivors answer questions and find tools to, empower them to go through their journey. We have an increasing number of survivors now applying to Bride Ministries for help. It's way more people applying than we can possibly get solutions to at this point right now, which is why I'm we're working on increasing our funding, like just the amount of money that we are bringing in, so that we can spend more money on helping survivors, bring on more coaches. The challenge is we have to find coaches that can actually do this type of ministry, which is easier said than done. And then once we have the money and we have the coaches, like there's still a deficit. What we need to do is build a school, and so we're laying out plans to build a DID coaching school so that we can begin to equip and train people that have a heart for this ministry, but not the right tools to execute this ministry. And so that's like all slated for creation in the near future. like the school element, we are underwriting the help of a number of survivors. And every time we have an influx where we're looking at our budget and there's extra, we are extending help to a new survivor.
That's
And
awesome.
that's just our pattern. It's like, okay, we see some increase, let's bring on another survivor. We try not to commit to helping more survivors than we can actually commit to. In other words, if there's not, that sustainable um, financial solution, like we just see like an influx, but then what we don't want to do is say, oh, we'll help you for 3 weeks. Oh, we can't afford to help you anymore now. We are working on making this a consistent, and so far we have been. Um, and so that's been really, really good. We launched the Fireplace Church. Now, this is a first of its kind, as far as I'm aware, internet-based ministry service. A lot of people, they get into the kind of subjects that we talk about, and they look for community. They can't find it. It's a problem. They go to local churches and they're not being fed, or
Right.
there's no one that's really identifying or tracking with them. And it's very frustrating. And we get emails, I'm sure you do too. Do
Yeah.
you know of any local bodies near where I live in Alaska or Canada or Mexico or, any kind of place? And it's like, well, my network just isn't that big. So we built a platform from scratch. We call it the
Awesome.
Fireplace Church. And so people that go, they could watch a ministry service. It has worship, it has teaching and all that. Then they click a button and they will find themselves in a live internet-based moderated discussion group. They can chat with people from around the world that are like-minded. We built the platform, and
Very
it's every
cool.
Friday night, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time at www.thefireplacechurch.org. And I'll tell you what, our church, we're trying to make it very sensitive to survivors and the needs of survivors. And we are taking steps to educate those that are joining to make sure they're not ignorant of what dissociation is, what it means. So, that's a huge, huge project. We invested over $30,000 into building this platform. And you know what, Zen? God blessed us. We managed to do it debt free as an organization.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, just praise reports all around. And so, we're really excited about all of these things. We offer discipleship courses. And yeah, I mean, there's more plans than that going into the future, but that's where I'll press pause.
Well, that is huge, and you are most definitely providing a grand service to, especially, those that are survivors and that have undergone, trauma-based mind control or been subjected to things that you can't just go out and talk to anybody about, and even pastor, preacher. Some of the things, especially in what we talk about in the shows that we do, they just simply won't ever be able to get it. And they won't know how to approach in trying to even assist somebody that has been subjected to things of this nature. And so, yeah, that's really amazing. And I'm really happy that the Most High is supporting all of you in your endeavors to do that. And if people listening wanted to help you, where would they go to donate? And also, is there anything else that they can donate, like their time or like school supplies or even clothes? I mean, is what is there as far as a need for the survivors and the people that you are helping? If they don't have money and but have extra stuff around the house, or I mean, is that something that could help you in your in your ministry?
If we were like a localized ministry, that might make sense. We don't even have a ministry building. As a
Mm-hmm.
matter of fact, oh, I don't even, my office is actually in my like living quarters. Like,
Yes.
I don't have a single employee that lives within 50 miles of my house. So it's like this really unique situation where it's just kind of nuts. And so we're coordinating all over the place in the country. And um, eh, when we get to the stage, because we have phases of our plan to help survivors, in in the current stage we're in, we are essentially trying to create a community of DID coaches. We've also launched recently a DID support groups, like survivor support groups, kind of like what you see for Alcoholics Anonymous or something, but
Mm-hmm.
for people that are survivors. We're creating solutions on this level. It's all done over the internet and phone and everything else. It's I mean, I don't know. I would call it revolutionary. It's more of an act of desperation, though. We're just trying to create a solution with what we have.
Right.
In future stages or phases of our plan, what we want to do is provide housing, like for survivors that are in situations that are just so difficult they can't possibly heal in their current situation, but they have
Right.
nowhere to go. Right now,
Right.
the people that we are helping, I mean, they have their own house. They have their own income, even if it's very meager. They uh, we're not ministering to orphans here, so yeah, like clothes or house supplies until we get to residential level stuff. We really don't need that yet.
Yeah.
But that's a great question. Thanks.
Yeah, no worries at all, because I know that a lot of people are wanting to help and are willing to help and would go to that extent to, find ways to support people in community, and maybe they don't have extra money or, extra funds, but have stuff and, or, anything else, even clothing, whatever. I know that people have asked me even, others that I know that might need things in that manner. And so I thought I would bring it up. But certainly do let us know if you get to that stage, and I could, put the word out to my listening audience that, and have people ship directly to wherever the survivors may be, or even, food or anything of that nature, but just to be able to help out in any way that, the body of Christ, certainly, if they don't have money, there's other ways, and it's a blessing to be able to provide support in any way. And I know that people are out there wanting to help and wanting, certainly, to those that have undergone, and especially children that have gone through the things that even Carolyn has gone through and survived. It's amazing to me that Carolyn, individuals like yourself can just come out as strong as you are, and to be as stable, and after having gone through what you've gone through. It's so such incredible strength, and so we're grateful to the Most High for supporting all
Now,
of you in that manner as well. Go ahead,
I
Daniel.
I will say this. Um, if there are legal professionals that feel called to fight, like, and at this point it would have to be pro bono because we certainly don't have
Right.
the ability to pay for it, but we get a lot of stories that require legal help and assistance, and I usually just have to say we are not at the stage right now that we can um, come alongside of you in a legal battle, because there are custody issues that go along with dissociation and this whole
Right.
conversation that are just sick. Like, the abusing parent gets all the rights because the police are corrupt and the DHS is corrupt. And so the kids are taken from the sober minded parent and placed in situations where they are kept in a cycle of abuse. And there's no lawyers that are willing to stand up because it's not cheap. We are really this one really hurts me, Zen, because some of these stories that I get are so heartbreaking.
Yes.
And it's like, Daniel, is there any way that you can help my situation? This is what's going on. This is what's going on with my kids. And it's like, no, I can't, because I'm not a lawyer, and
Right.
because I can't afford $200 an hour to hire a lawyer for you yet.
Right. Right.
Um, so that if there's people that hear that and think, oh man, I might have something for you, Dan Duval, you get a hold of me. And people can go to bridemovement.com or thefireplacechurch.org. Get a hold of us both ways.
Awesome. Well, I do pray that people that are able to help do hear and do extend their willingness to support and to help these individuals and families and children that, really need this kind of critical support. And so, and thank you in advance, those of you that have the capacity and have the willingness to do so. And we pray that many reach out in that manner. But
Yeah.
all right,
Hey,
Carolyn.
Zen,
Yes,
Zen,
yes.
I'd like to. I've never brought this up on a program before, but I have. This is probably a good time to do that. On my blog, I have a donate button. That donate button goes straight to Bride Ministries. So if anybody's on my blog and they feel like they would like to help with the healing, offset the cost of providing the counseling, the coaching for another survivor, they can, if they look at the donate button at the top right hand corner of the first page of my blog, it'll take them right to Bride Ministries. And so
Awesome.
I don't know how much people are donating from my blog, but I just thought I'd notice I've been accused of having a tip jar. That's no tip jar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you know, uh, people that are out there that just beat up on others and accuse people of other things. I mean, we're all having to survive and struggle to manage and make it in this world, and especially for those of us that put the kingdom and prioritize it as our full focus. Because I myself care nothing about all of, even though we have to live and we have to manage bills and all of that, but that's not my concern at all. My concern is, my focus is on the kingdom and the the books that whether I sell them, and I donate a lot as well. But that just goes to support me in what I'm doing. And it's so crazy how so many people will beat others up, and all we're doing is providing a service and bringing all of this information forward and sharing it and trying to give people guidance and direction where they're not even able to get it from anybody else. And to get beat up over that is just really crazy. But anyways, let's go ahead and go into the reptilian overlords and how, and the things that have come up in the work that you do, because I know, Daniel, that you work with a lot of different individuals, and you are hearing this theme over and over and repeated in helping others, and that even though it sounds insane and crazy and so far out that it is beyond belief. Even with all the Bible, the Nakash in Genesis chapter 3, Revelation 12, of which I read and quoted from at the very beginning of the show, we have this theme of these feathered serpent and dragon like entities and their presence here on the planet as being part of the powers, the principalities, the rulers of darkness, this wickedness in high places, and they have been since the beginning, since the war in heaven, have been warring against the seed of humanity. And this theme, that even though people don't recognize it, it is interwoven in all throughout Scripture. And so, can you comment on that first, and then talk in some about this, and then Carolyn, whenever you like, step in, and we'll just, you know, um, play off of each other in dialogue until we go into the other aspect of what you wanted to cover, the
Well,
dragon system.
yeah, I mean, the reality is then, I never wanted to believe that reptiles walked around and ate people. That
Right. Yeah.
was just so distasteful in my mind because you know what? I'm Christian. And
Right.
Christians, they don't believe that reptiles walk around and eat people on spaceships. That that's not fun. Christians don't like to believe that reptiles live in human bodies and shapeshift and eat people
Right.
at
Right.
rituals. That is nuts. So I I didn't want anything to do with it. I remember when God started first walking me into like New World Order research. I was like, oh, do, 9/11 was a conspiracy, check, Jesuits, check. All right, there's a lot of problems over. I started going through all different things. Every time I would always end up landing on some of these like uh, theories that included, well, they're all reptiles. And it's like,
Hmm.
oh, nope, nope, nope. That's where the truth stops. because I know reptiles do not walk around and fly in spacecraft and eat people. Then
Right.
reptiles fly around in craft and they eat people.
Right.
I mean, they go to rituals in human bodies, shapeshift and eat people. It's just true. And it's like horrible.
Yes.
But the thing is, everyone can't be lying.
Exactly. Exactly.
So with Carolyn, the interesting thing about Carolyn was that I'm getting like, you know, the number of stories coming back, reptiles this, reptiles that, and it's like this is really crazy, off the charts, whatever. I'm getting it though. God, I just want to help these people. And if helping people means that I have to listen to their memories about seeing reptiles fly around in spacecraft and eat people, then I'm just going to go with the flow.
Right.
Whatever. Carolyn didn't have any of it. I was like, at least I got one sound-minded like survivor on my hands, you know. Carolyn's like, nope, there's just grays. Like, okay. Okay, so what we didn't realize though is that all of Carolyn's memories of the reptiles were actually allocated to a part of her named Andrew.
Oh, wow.
And Andrew had unique abilities, even the ability to shapeshift, which is really, really interesting. And so when we began to get to know Andrew, we got a bucket load of information on reptilians that took the conversation far beyond what I ever expected to learn or know. Because a lot of question marks on this thing, right? It's like, how do you get a whole population of beings walking around, flying spacecraft, eating people, and interfacing with other solar systems, so they say? Like, where does that make any sense at all? Why do people report seeing reptiles on Mars? Why, you know, it's like, how does it all play into one singular conversation that actually does make sense in context of the Bible? Well, some of the answers that we got were not what I would have expected to get, but they are what they are, you know. And I'm just going to turn it over to Carolyn now and let her tell you about Andrew, about what he said, and about what we learned between all the information we were getting through her deprogramming.
Yes, please, Carolyn.
All right. Well, what I talk about tonight is not going to be the full extent of what is on my blog. Maybe a lot of it will, but I think it's in the article that I have about reptilians. I called it Reptilian Genesis. I think it's Nephilims, super soldiers of the Nephilim, something like that. In this article, I give more information about Andrew. So if somebody wants to know more about him and how he was created, that to go there. But he's an alter, has since been integrated, although it's been a nice addition.
Hold on, Carolyn. We'll pick it up on the other side. Be right back, everyone. Welcome back, everybody. Just want to remind the listening audience that in 2 Corinthians chapter 11, where Paul references the serpent beguiling Eve, he speaks in verse 14 that Satan himself can transform himself into an angel of light, speaking about the shapeshifting abilities of these dragon-like entities. So keep that in mind. Carolyn?
Okay, well, Andrew was a large part of me. Something I even realized recently, just thinking, you know, how things connect dots. I just think back of things in my past, and I realized that I thought back about how doctors had told me when I was a teenager that I had more male hormones in my body than most women. In fact, it was more like what a guy would have, but I was very feminine. But how did I have all those male hormones? Well, maybe it had something to do with Andrew because Andrew was a large part of me and very strong. In fact, his name means manly, it means warrior, it perfectly describes him. Andrew was created, I think, in about 1972. He was not created specifically to work with reptilians. It just happened that the group that he was working for, that he was created to work with, found that he was good at dealing with reptilians. So they gave him the job. And I think it's probably because of my bloodline. First of all, the shape shifting. I'm looking back on, nobody told me we were reptilian. It's just I was told that we came from a bloodline that wasn't totally human. So you know, it's kind of putting two and two together. It's also odd. I had unusual things happen in my childhood that had to do with reptiles, and it's just different, you know, just putting two and two together and wondering about it. But anyway, shape shifting was something that I seem to have inherited that ability, and also, I mean, a genetic thing, and it's also is other members of my family appear to have the same ability where we can. It's almost like being a chameleon. You start to blend in. You can actually blend in and change the physical appearances to get along with whatever group of people we've been associating with. I mean, I've throughout my life, I've had many, many different looks. Same person, many looks, and I think this might be part of it. But also with Andrew, I didn't. This was totally walled off from me. This is one of those. I mean, I didn't even know about Andrew until like a year ago, maybe a little more than a year ago, and because it was just totally walled off from me. But anyway, Andrew was used as, I mean, at that part of my life, there's like 4 years of my life I was used more after, like with mind control. I was used in an organization more as a guy than I was as a female. One of my alters was Candace. That's another one I've talked about before. She was used by the same group of people. So Andrew was also my protector, and the one that had to get me to where I was supposed to go to. And also, he was used more as, it was my body, but they used him more. So anyway, Andrew, what I could do is I could start telling you some things that Andrew told me about reptilians. See, I could never ever remember anything that had to do with reptilians. Always, like Daniel said, I mentioned grays. I mean, I've seen lots and lots of different types of beings, entities, things that call themselves I don't know, it's like interplanetary beings. Those are all from Satan's spiritual hierarchy, all of them. And I've interacted with numerous different types, but never reptilians. So I thought, yeah, that's kind of odd. I don't know if I believe in them, but it seems odd that I don't have any memory of ever being with one.
Mm-hmm.
So in the meantime, something I found out, it's even some of the grays that I've been with, when I've realized that some of them were, I really think that okay, like Colonel SC has said that grays are actually reptilians, and I'm seeing this now from my own experience of how, when I'm trying to describe some of the grays to the friend of mine that's the artist that's trying to do sketches for my book. I'm realizing, wait a minute, I really think these guys are reptilians or hybrids of them.
Right.
So anyway, what Andrew said, he said that they are that they're very dangerous creatures. I mean, because I have the memories of Andrew, I know what these guys look like, the type that he worked with. I understand there's numerous types. He knew of three main types of reptilians, and he dealt with several most of the time. And he knew them. He actually could speak reptilian. He claims. I'd like to understand. I'd like to get that back. It might be interesting. But
Mm-hmm.
he said that with reptilians, he says if they do a favor for somebody, they always believe that the person they do a favor for owes them much, much more. And he said it seemed like he had an innate understanding of reptilians, and I think it's probably because that's in my bloodline. So he was able to deal with them that way because he instinctively knew what they might do next. It's like he could smell it. He could, well, they smell. I mean, physically they have a smell, but he could sense what they were going to do next. He could pick up on it, so he could react ahead of time to prevent something from happening or derail them if it was a dangerous situation. He was quick to do that. I mean, they're very volatile, he said. I mean, some of this information is probably nothing new to some people, but we'll get into more of that later. And let's see, I'm looking at my notes.
Oh, hey, can I
He's
ask you two questions really quick before
sure.
we well, first, I wanted to ask you about the reptilian language and if it had anything to do with the archaic dialect. Because I remember seeing it was either in the movie The Knowing or The Fourth Kind, about these beings that were abducting these children, but the mother recorded them speaking like a Sumerian language or like an ancient dialect of Sumerian, but she didn't understand it. And then somebody that was a linguist was able to connected to, the Sumerian dialect, and I was just wondering if it was anything like that. And then the other question is, can you comment on the varieties, the types? Because I know that some people say that in the hierarchy of these beings, that those that are really of high level are the winged dragon type individuals, and then those that are lower caste in the reptilian hierarchy are non-winged, or some have horns and some are just regular humanoid reptilian looking type um, individuals.
Well, I'm interested in. I have to check into that language. I'm not familiar with that. I do know with the Greys, I've heard their language. The at least the Greys that I was involved with, their type of language that actually is. Sometimes it's a clicking sound. Sometimes it's beyond a human range, auditory range.
Hmm.
It's the notes are higher. It's higher than our what we're able to perceive, and also lower sounds than what we do. With the reptilian language, from the only thing I remember, like from Andrew, is they appeared. It seems crazy to, I guess, to associate it with Klingons on Star Trek, but in some ways they reminded him of Klingons, and also like the combination of Ferengis in some ways. But it was their language was like a guttural, appeared to be like a guttural type of a language,
Hmm.
and reminded him somewhat of of the Klingons on Star Trek. And they were really good at they had a certain cuss words, and that, I mean, just very foul. They used a lot, and Andrew was good at that. I mean, I'm not a person that uses that curses, cusses,
Yeah.
whatever, but Andrew was all guy. He Sometimes you have to do that to get people's attention. They aren't going to take you seriously. So he was really good at being able to throw them off by throwing out some, cussing them out. And he could sound just like they did, which would shock them that a human could sound like them, and knew their lingo the way that they did. That's the most I know about the language. So I mean, I'm
Okay.
going to check into what you said. And
Yeah.
as for the higher levels, I don't know. He dealt with ones, they had, some of them had tails, some of them didn't. The
Uh-huh.
tails, of course, were weapons. You had to watch out for that stuff. So uh, they looked, gosh, I need to get a drawing. They don't. I guess they might look more like what people say Dracos look like. I'm not.
Yeah.
I haven't done any research on my own to find out about them. Other than that, other people have said there's lots of different types and
Right.
degrees.
Okay.
So what what Andrew did give us, the information he did give us, was what he claims is the origin of them. So maybe there was an original origin, and then possibly they branched off different types and degrees from that, hybrids.
Hmm.
I don't know. So
Can you talk about the origins, or any stories about their ancient past, or anything that you know of in that
sure.
regard? Yeah.
Okay. They were actually, what he said, that they're not angels and they're not demons. He said they were actually, let me see if I need to go background. I mean, he said that the Nephilim actually created them. They were, let's
Yeah,
see if
they,
I
they
need
were
to go
like
back.
original super soldiers. That's
Yeah.
that's what we were told. They were like and oh yes, by the way, the smell, it's like cat pee. That's their smell. It's um
Putrid.
another thing, I just want to throw two things out there because I have a lot of reports that run through my uh mind as you're asking Carolyn some questions.
Yeah.
There seems to be this thing about the white color. If the reptilian is white, that usually denotes some kind of royal class. Um,
Interesting.
Also, height among the Dracos can
Right.
be a significant indicator of their rank. The tallest ones are typically understood as the ones with the most authority or power, while the shorter ones are like worker class.
Right.
Um, but yeah, we'll just pause there because the origins is so interesting. I never heard anything like the information we pulled back from Carolyn, and it begins with the idea that there were these pre-flood Nephilim, and they were looking to create like a super soldier class for their own purposes. And well, Carolyn, I'll just let you pick up there.
Okay, I don't know what rank the ones that Andrew dealt with. They were, what rank they were. They looked about probably 8 feet tall, quite large build. So I don't know about that, but what he said is that they are a byproduct of Nephilim. That they were a super soldier that was created to do battle for the Nephilim. And what happened is they turned on their creators. They actually were too good at what they were created for. That's why they're bloodthirsty, and that's all. It's like that. That's all they want to think about is bloodthirsty and destruction. Pretty much that's much, and just ruling, because that's what they were created to do. Just wipe stuff out. So so they turned on their creators and they quit taking orders. They decided they were going to stop doing battle for the Nephilim and start working on. It's like a renegade group, and they actually considered themselves better than their creators for a lot of reasons. They're actually they were created multi-dimensional beings. So I mean, so that's why they were such good warriors, is because they were able to disappear and appear, to manipulate matter, and they can either appear and do battle, or they can be silent and do battle. And what Andrew said is that's where, I mean, I don't have anything to back this up with, but he said the term dust devil, the original term for dust devil, came from these things, that the reptilians, because one of the most frightening things they did was they could stir up the dust but be invisible and still have the sound of them coming, just ready to attack a village of people or a group of people, and it would just strike terror in the hearts of people. So so people started calling it dust devils when they saw the dust rising, a huge army coming. So anyway, I'm looking at some of my notes to see if there's anything. So their origin, they weren't created by God, of course. And looking to see what else. Okay, what I could do now is just go into what the reptilian, how they reproduce or replicate.
Yeah, anything that you want to talk on about them is very interesting.
Yeah. One of the things about them that I haven't mentioned yet is that a lot of the information, like what I'll do is, it's really interesting about with a part like Andrew, is I will go back and check. I mean, he'll tell me things and I'll go back and check and find out that this information's accurate. Like he said that there was documented cases, that Native Americans had documented cases of seeing reptilians, and that some of the Native Americans actually could see reptilians, and they used to do rituals to protect themselves from it. And he said they called them lizard people. Well, then I looked it up. I found out the Hopi Indians actually did call a group of lizard people, and said they were associated with Alpha Centauri, and that they lived underground. I mean, everything that Andrew had said, I actually have found through the internet, according to other people on the internet. All I can say is that I didn't know I didn't know this, but I found that it's been backed up by what other people have said on the reports on the internet. So if anyone wants to do that research, it's out there.
Yeah, so, I believe they reference them as the rattlesnake people as well. And that even in Los Angeles, there was a city under Los Angeles that was discovered that was in the shape of a lizard, and the native peoples spoke of an ancient race of lizard beings that had lived in the area and in fact lived underground beneath Los Angeles at that time. And people can look that up as well. There's stories of that were published in the newspaper of an individual that I forget what his name was, but he was doing ground penetrating like radar and discovered all of these labyrinths, and also spoke about different caches of gold and like even a network connected to ancient libraries and stuff. It's very interesting article, and it's not difficult to find at all.
Did you have anything, Daniel, that you wanted to add before I get into the next point?
No, not particularly. The, the the shocker was when we continued to press in during our work. I was very curious. I'm like, okay, you know, if you have a male human and a female human and you put them together and make them one flesh, they will produce a baby. I was thinking, hold on, okay, there's all these populations of these reptiles, whatever. How do they reproduce? And I'm like, maybe, just maybe, I can get an answer for this bizarro land question. Who knows? Because you never know. It's like working with a survivor is like a box of chocolates. This is full of
Right.
goodies and pieces of random information. Like you just never know what you're gonna get. And it's like, okay, just ask the question. I learned a long time ago. You have to ask the right question. So I asked a question. I said, well, is there any info on how they reproduce? Believe it or not, there was a ton. A ton. And this is the first thing I've ever, and it began to connect a lot of dots because then I began to see that their method of reproduction, it's actually still happening now. And it answers so many questions that you have, even about how, oh, how are there politicians that have the ability to shapeshift and turn into reptiles and eat people? Like, there's these gaps in understanding that just no one really has the dots to make sense. But Carolyn's dots make it make sense, and it's just shocking. And so when I began to ask the question, the information began to come forward, and we were able to outline what I would say are the 11 steps to reproducing a reptilian. Very, very interesting. And I'll let Carolyn tell that because this is her information.
Yeah. Well, as a little bit of introduction, I'll be mentioning some of this, and it's like Daniel calls it the 11-point process. But this is okay. Their blood cells contain a blueprint for everything that they are, including their genetic memory, life force, intellect, and etc. And it's switched off or on for full memory or partial memory. So full memory would be replicas of a complete memory of the original. And they don't like, this is an interesting thing, they don't like to have a complete twin made of themselves because there's an identity competition. They would kill each other because, like, let's say the original guy has the second guy reptilians created, and if he's just like the first one, he wants to be the first one, so he's going to kill the first one. So they don't want that, so they're very competitive. So the 11-point process is, number one is it's done by a process called twinning, and this is just what the information Andrew gave. Twinning has to do with the blood. That's number two. Number three is their life is in the blood. Number four, their blood cells contain the blueprints for everything they are, including intellect, spirit, memories, type of genetic memories. These memories can be switched off and on if necessary. This is not desirable because the twin may try to kill the original, and I just mentioned that. Number five is a single blood cell, which has connection to the bone marrow, is separated from their body. 6, they use some type of an energy. It's like electricity that activates that part of the cell, activates the part of the cell that is the life force. And what Andrew actually showed me, like what part of the cell, said that life force is connected to everything that is in the cell. Number 7, this area of the cell that is the life force begins to direct the cell to form another entity. The life force is connected to everything in that cell. This process involves magnetic qualities. It activates everything to begin working. This life force contains spirit, memories, and intellect, and all characteristics to be expressed are contained within the cell. Number 8, the cell must be deposited into another life form as the preferred method of replication. The preferred targets for hijacking are humans. Although they find humans detestable, it is a necessary element for the process because the cell itself at this point may be in another dimension or anywhere else. See, one of the reasons they need humans too, I mean, there's numerous reasons, but one of them is because they are part human. They were created, they have human DNA in them. That's part of how they were created. So number 9, the cell is in some way joined to a human egg. The reptilian cell is a viable thing, and at this point, things can go in different directions. A, the reptilian cell is joined to a human egg fertilized by human sperm in the womb. Or
hold on, Carolyn. We'll be right back. We'll pick it up on the other side, everyone. Welcome back, everybody, for second hour. I'm your host, Zen Garcia. This is Momentary Zen, and I have as guests with me this evening both Daniel Duval and Carolyn Hamlett. Before we continue, I want to give both of you a chance again to give out your website and contact information, whatever you would like to share, and where people can go to find your work. And also, Daniel, when you shared can you talk about any other books? Because I know you're a very prolific writer, as like myself. If you have published anything of recently, or if you are working on anything, and actually, we'll start with you, and then we'll go to Carolyn.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Zen. People can find us at www.bridemovement.com or our newest project, www.thefireplacechurch.org, and reach out to us through either of those venues. As far as new books, I've been so busy with the projects we've been doing, I haven't really had the time to continue working on some of my newer projects. But the books that I do have available are Higher Dimensions, Parallel Dimensions in the Spirit Realm. Another one called Kingdom Government and the Promise of Sheep Nations. I have the first book I wrote called Noah's Ark and the End of Days. And so anyway, there's a lot of other materials that we have just available for free on the website. And of course, with our discipleship through Bride Ministries, we offer packets of information that we work through over a period of 8 weeks, and people can sign up to be on our waiting list for that by just going to either of our websites, bridemovement.com, thefireplacechurch.org, and sending us a little message to say, sign me up for the discipleship waiting list. And they will get an email when we're about to launch the class and pick the class they want to join and go in that route. So that's what I got for you. Thank you, Zen.
Okay, yeah, no, thank you. Carolyn?
I have a blog that's called beyondthephysicalrealm.com.
Excellent. All right. Well, just really quick, I wanted to remind everybody that Revolution Radio is the largest listener-supported, commercial-free, and corporate-free entity as far as platform for truth in the world, and that we do need your support in order to continue to be able to come to you in the way that we do and in the capacity that we do. And those of you that can afford to, please do go to freedomslips.com, click on the donate button, or barter your support by buying any of the products that is there for your generous donation, and know that we appreciate you ahead of time for doing so, and we love all of you out there, and thank you for supporting us in that way. Carolyn, I want to go back because I know you were talking about the 11 points, and what is interesting to me is that it seems to be like a hybrid process, because like with regular serpents, the snakes, they give birth to other snakes in eggs. Some of them actually have live birth, but this is an interesting process. And is it something, because of their hybridization, something that they had to perfect? And then also in regards to needing a human host, does the reptilian entity within that human individual, does it feed on that individual, or does it just somehow take over the personality of that individual, or is it like just like our spirits living through our flesh, like they're just hosted in human bodies, but that they are reptilian, still reptilian in as far as entities, beings.
Well, it appears to be different degrees of whether a lot of it has to do with like how much of the reptilian, like if two, the way it was explained to me is that if they try to do similar bloodlines, in fact, they a lot of people may not know that they have reptilian bloodline, but there's like a scent that they aren't even aware of, that they feel like they're kind of drawn to each other, that it's just something in within them, within their genetics, that they are drawn to the same type, and therefore they don't always have to have direct matched marriages. It's just a natural thing that they're inclined and to be drawn toward each other, and then when they produce offspring, two humans that have a lot of the reptilian DNA in them will produce offspring that is more reptilian than human. And that's what the reptilians like to work through is bloodlines that have more reptilian in them than human, that the part of the reptilian genes are switched on and stronger, so that they choke out. What they try to do is it kind of depends upon how much of the human, like I said, is in the genes. And if it's a lot of reptilian, that it's more easy for the reptilian spirit, soul, whatever it is, to choke out and suffocate, in a sense, to overtake the human spirit. It's like they sedate it, so they become, well, it's
The predominant.
like, yeah, it's like they become a parasite, total parasite, and there's different
Hmm.
degrees of that. And of course, with some people, well, like with me, well, like, okay, there's some people that have written to me, and they're going, oh my gosh, I think I've got reptilian, I'm not going to be, God can't help me. Well, no, that's not true. It's like some people are so far gone that they don't, well, okay, God knows, God created all of us. Gosh, this gets into other stuff. He has the
Well,
original blueprint from who we are, and he, if we've been suffocated, it's not our fault, of
Hmm.
course, but the reptilian is responsible. So is God going to hold, I mean, that's, I'm not going to say whether God holds somebody responsible or not. I would say common sense. If God is all love, we certainly know what love is. We know what love isn't. And if we as humans can understand what love is or isn't to that degree, God is the perfect love. So if we can think, well, God, why would God kill or destroy a human because of they were suffocated by some reptilian oversoul thing? Well, I'm thinking that God wouldn't. That he can separate, like the Word of God says, like the sword of the Spirit can separate from the, what is it, Daniel? It's the
soul
joint
and
and the marrow.
spirit and the joint and marrow.
There.
Um,
So
let me just throw something out. Zen, what I have found in what I do is that deliverance from demons is like the most petty element of the whole conversation. Much larger is the separation of genetics, both physical and spiritual, that anchor a person to these groups. And it is in various degrees. As a matter of fact, Carolyn, what we found was that she had dormant reptilian elements on the inside of her, but she was never hijacked.
Hmm.
But like if you let her finish all the points, point 11 is actually very telling in response to some of the questions that you're asking.
Yes, I want you to finish the points. And also, there's a question that arose in the chat room, and if you could address this in the process, they were just wondering what you know about the reptilians, the Dracos, and their association with Orion.
Okay.
And you
Okay.
can go into the other stuff, and then when you get chance, you can go into that whenever.
Okay. Daniel probably has, I'm sure he has information on that also.
Sure.
I don't have a whole lot, and some of that I do. It's like I disassociate some of the details, but I do remember some of it. Okay. Also, with after the 11-point process, there's another way that the reptilians reproduce. So I'll just go into that part, and then why they prefer a human host. Some of it I've already mentioned, and Daniel kind of has. Going back to the ninth point, it's that the cell is in some way joined to the human egg, and it is done several different ways. A was that it's joined to the reptilian cell is joined to a human egg fertilized by human sperm in the womb. B is the reptilian cell is joined to a human egg fertilized by human sperm in a laboratory. And C is less desirable. The reptilian cell is joined to an unfertilized human egg. So they use science, and they've learned what they've learned about cloning and replication. A lot of this, like through the laboratory stuff and what I've described, is they according to Andrew, they learned it from the Nephilim. So the 10th point is the reptilian cell is able to combine into the life form to the extent that it has the ability to project the physical characteristics of the human while remaining in charge. And it takes more energy, though, for them to keep the human form. For some of them, it takes more energy. So it says that they cannot, Andrew said, they cannot kill the human spirit, but they can subdue it and subjugate it. And number 11 is they rule the host. They rule the host from that point forward. And let's see. They, of course, they have the replicated memory. Sometimes the memory can be replicated and exchanged, like from the original blood cell. So also they can. So it's in some ways they never die if they do this process. So another manner that they can reproduce, it's looking at my notes, it's when two infected humans, I already mentioned this, that they procreate. The reptilians consider that offspring to be theirs and of reptilian bloodline. And I said sometimes a person's exercise of will can prevent the reptilian part from fully expressing itself or taking over. I mean, it can take, well, I know from the power of God and prayer that can help. It's like if somebody's predisposed for something, it may be harder for them to not do a certain thing, or if there's like generational sin that's in the family for a while, it's kind of anchored in, and people may have a harder time combating that sin. That's where the power of Jesus Christ comes in. If you can put yourself under his authority and use that power that's not yours, it's God's power, then you can have power over this. So why okay, yeah, I mentioned about how they're attracted to other people on an unconscious level. So why humans are preferred host is because humans have similar DNA, and also, as Daniel mentioned, they like to have an anchor on the earth. Humans are made from the dust of the earth, like what the Bible says. We're made from the substance, the third dimensional substance of the earth. And something that I learned from when I was working in the satanic hierarchy was that they need us they need humans, while like the ascended masters and other so-called highly evolved beings, that those beings actually work for the satanic hierarchy, even though a lot of people don't realize this. They are trying to tell people that they can help us. No, they aren't here to help us. They are here to help themselves to us so that they can use us. I think we've talked about this on another program.
Yes.
They leverage our spiritual authority that we have, God-given spiritual authority here on earth, that to to get what they want. It's all a part of agreement. And this is one of the reasons why reptilians prefer to have, even though they despise humans, they gives them, if they have a human body or a lot of the human DNA in them, that they have an anchor to the earth, and it gives them some authority to help manipulate the matter on earth, and it kind of makes them more like super beings. So let's see it. Looking at other points, yeah, it gives them that they're seeking the spiritual authority that humans have. Our intelligence is desirable also than other terrestrial life forms. And let's see. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. Daniel, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah. Um, she's not kidding. The reptilians hate humans. You can't stand it. Like, that's just their attitude, it seems, and that's been reported from more than one source. But they just like every other kind of thing out there, um, it all comes back to Earth, and so they need human authority, human agreement, and coming back to that the whole question on Orion, it's interesting. I have found that reptilians seem to show up all over the place. They show up on Mars. They show up under the Earth. They show up in other constellations. And people that have parts in other areas of the galaxy or universe, because that's there's this thing, I call it the Babylonian soul trade. In the book of Revelation, it says that Babylon trades in the souls of men. What people don't realize is that soul trade is pretty much cosmic. And so what happens is they break up a person's soul into pieces, and that's the fragmentation and the trauma. And they're exporting these pieces of soul all over the cosmos. And so as we're getting people put back together, oftentimes what we have to do is ask the Lord to send out his angels and retrieve them from places like Orion and like the Pleiades and like Sirius, and they because the Babylonian soul trade has taken them to these kinds of places. This is relevant to eschatology and the Bible. I mean, I don't think I'm going out on too much of a limb here to make this comment. But when we pull back parts, they might have memories of seeing reptiles like all over the place. And but the interesting thing about Orion, well, Orion's belt is a portal, and Orion is hugely, hugely, hugely associated with another group known as the Ancients. And actually, Carolyn does have a ton of information about the Ancients, but these are Thoth, Osiris, Isis, Horus, Anubis, Set, Nut. These guys, they were also associated with ancient Egypt. The interesting thing about the ancients is like they're not really ancient. They don't experience time where they are or come from the way Earth experiences time as we run through our timeline. And so this group seems to have their own kind of agenda, and they're pretty powerful. A lot of the there's just different levels and orders, like caste system or any other kind of thing. When you're talking about the reptilians, not all of them are really that significant or powerful in the kingdom of darkness at all. As a matter of fact, we were even I was shocked when I was being told that you can't put the reptilians, like what Carolyn is talking about, the super soldiers, and Satan in the same conversation, because Satan is so much more supremely powerful to them that they're like just runts and grunts. They're not on the same level of significance as the dragon of Revelation 12. We were told there was a huge difference, and Carolyn might have more, because I was actually thinking that would be a really, really good way to explain, like, because I mean, I didn't know. But again, we're all in this conversation trying to figure it out, and I get information from all over the place. Carolyn, did you have anything that you wanted to like say on that point? Carolyn?
Carolyn? We may have lost her.
Okay, I'm here.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. Okay, sorry about that. I had my mic off. Okay, what Andrew had said is that they had ties to Venus, Orion, Sirius, and the Pleiades, and that, like Daniel said, there's a portal in the uh, in the star system of Orion. And what Andrew said was that the way that some of the reptilians escaped the Noahic flood, other than going underground pretty deeply, was that they exited. They went to through the portal at the star system of Orion, and which is outside of time, and they can actually, according to what Andrew said and with the ancients, they can enter a certain time period, and is why they've actually sown their seed from the different time levels that way, and revisited it. It gets can get kind of complicated. And also with what Daniel was saying about how Satan looks at them, Satan looks at them, he called them useful idiots. That's how he looks at them, is they think that they're operating independently, and there's different groups of them that think that they operate independently from each other. But Satan actually has top members of his spiritual hierarchy that are like his right hand beings, right hand men in a sense, that use keep track of the reptilians and use them and guide them without them really realizing they're being guide them to do Satan's will.
It's all fascinating. Can you comment on the ancient ones, since that was something that was brought forth? And then also, Daniel, if you would, can you comment on the same thing?
Okay,
Well, go ahead,
okay, go
Carolyn.
ahead. You go first.
Okay. Uh, yeah, well, definitely the ancients are hugely, hugely important. As a matter of fact, this is how far do we go down this rabbit trail? Um, the ancients are very, very high up in the hierarchy of spiritual powers, like right there at the top. So they're all pretty powerful guys, you know. Horus, Isis, and Osiris, the original fake trinity. I mean, they
Mm-hmm.
essentially Osiris thinks he is the sun god. They actually compete among themselves, the ancients, like who's going to be the chief one. You know, they're all really, really involved. Like Thoth. Thoth was actually the intelligence we found behind Montauk. And of course, Montauk was a lot of the early efforts to engage in time travel, time manipulation, dimensional travel. Um, the Montauk chair would be used with children in order to open portals all over the place. And they did all these horrible projects. Who was behind all of that? Turns out it was Thoth. Like he was the mastermind, and he was, you know, putting information into all these people. But to see some of the top ranking people on the, I guess what you would call the quote unquote human side, they were reptiles. They were shapeshifting reptilians, and so you do see that there is cooperation and collaboration between these groups, and we get all of this back just from the memories. Um, the goodness gracious, the ancients seem to be on on an agenda to basically control time. It's really, really bad. So anyway, Carolyn, I'm just gonna turn it over to you and let you make some more comments on these guys.
Yeah, I'm actually looking through some of my notes because we got a bunch of information about the ancients, trying to decide what to say. Part of it was that they have an association with Sirius A and Sirius B. I think those are the dog star, the Palladian system, or what is it? The Sirius, yeah,
Yeah,
Canis
Sirius is the
Major,
dog star. Yeah.
yeah, okay, Sirius A and Sirius B, and um, one of the things that I learned also was that they liked gold, used gold as a conductor. That's one of their, I mean, their gold's a big thing with them, and that they had an aversion to copper. So they also, that I've mentioned before, I think on a program, maybe it was on, I don't know, with this on your program, Zen, or maybe with Daniel, that one of the things that Andrew said was that the ancients, when they, okay, with their bloodline, what they would do is, one of the reasons they considered that the gods never died is that they had their own, they established their own bloodline so that they could actually enter into their human host's body at different times. And an example to show that they were present within that body was that they would exhale gold dust.
Hmm.
That supposedly was a sign that they were there. So whether that's true or not, like history backs that up, I don't know. It's just interesting information, and that they plan to return.
Hold on, everyone. We'll be right back, and I've got an interesting something to share when we get back. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. And in a previous show, I had mentioned I read a small passage to you, Carolyn and Daniel, from the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Uh, Thoth. And I talked about how in this particular, the Emerald Tablet number 8, it mentions how they, being these ancient ones, being these serpent headed beings, that they, it specifically, it says they crept into the councils and taking forms that were like unto men, they slayed by their arts the chiefs of the kingdom, and then taking their form, they now rule over man. And they sought from the kingdom of the shadows to destroy man and to rule in his place. And so it would seem to connect to a lot of what we are talking about here in this particular passage. This text is supposedly from the time of Atlantis and goes back even 25,000 BC, according to some of the things that are written within it. But another interesting thing about, there was a comment that an individual shared. Pale Rider said that Gary Wayne, that suggests that Azazel was banished to Orion and that he was the leader of the fallen angels who cho- chose to mate with the women and birth the Nephilim, which I believe the Nephilim are the fallen angels. But one other thing in regard to the gold, which is interesting, in a series of shows that I was doing with Peter Moon, he was talking about how there's an ancient line of Tibetans that live for very long time, and he says that they use a form of monatomic gold in order to increase their longevity, and that they have perfected this technique, and they call it basically the philosopher's stone. It's like the highest form of alchemy, and it allows them to live thousands of years. And again, like these reptilian beings, indwelling in flesh bodies and being able to live for very long and extended period of times. But one of the comment is that there seems to be connection with Orion and as the place of origin or place, portal, escape, whatever it is, but there definitely is connection with Orion and also Sirius A, Sirius B, according to the Dogon tribes, to the ancient ones, or to um, what Kreta Mutwa calls the Chitta Uli or the Chitta Uri, which are also a different name for these reptilian entities. But anyways, let me turn this back over to you, Carolyn, and then we'll get Daniel to comment.
I think that's always interesting to have something validated. I take a chance, by saying some of this stuff. I just
Right.
go out on a limb, but some stuff I know has been proven. But I always learn something new on your show. You always have great information. So yeah, that's it. What you just said backs up the information I have, and just actually adds to it. So appreciate that very much.
Oh yeah, no problem. That's what we're here for, to be confirming witness to one another. And even though this just sounds absolutely, bizarro world. This is the reality of what we're dealing with, even with what Daniel was talking about, that, he had to basically face this in working with the different survivors, and, having the story repeated from many angles and many perspectives, which also, Daniel, I wanted to give you a chance, without sharing anybody else's names, but can you talk about some of the other survivor testimony of, in connection to the what we're talking about this evening, as far as the ancient ones and the reptilians, and, anything to do with Orion or anything of that nature?
Well, yeah, I mean, I could share plenty. Um, I I'm pretty sure just about all of the ancients know who I am because I've been in conflict and war with them and their realms for some time, with different periods of time, for different reasons and different people, just to get them set free. One of the things about the ancients, and this goes for most of the heavenly powers, even dragons, they create their own bloodlines.
Mm-hmm.
And they follow their own bloodlines. And if they're going to, how do you say, walk in, they're
Right.
always going to walk into someone that belongs to their bloodline.
It
Like,
certainly makes it easier.
yeah, yeah. So, like, okay, here's something to think about, right? One of Thoth's names was Hermes, the thrice great, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so they talk about how he had multiple incarnations. How did he do that? Well, you have this spirit stepping in, I believe, to different individuals that are all on the same silver line, which would be his bloodline. Um, Literally, a series of people that carry a data packet anchoring their DNA to him,
Mm-hmm.
because at some point he found someone to agree that he could get in there. Uh, as a matter of fact, this is one of the highest levels of bondage that we find, is that the powers of the heavens believe that if their DNA is in a human individual, they have the right to use them for their purposes. Like sin, like let's say, you go out and you get drunk a bunch of times, and the demon of alcoholism comes in. Well, that demon of alcoholism is pulling on an open door. You're getting drunk. That is the open door. You have given that spirit the right to be around because of the sin you've opened up in your life. So, spirit of alcoholism follows you around now. Until you close that door and repent of being a drunk, to turn that area of your life back over to Jesus, that demon doesn't really have to go anywhere. It kind of sticks around. Well, that's a very simplistic look at what an open door, an access point through sin can look like in a person's life. But iniquity, it is a funny thing about iniquity, that it follows generations. And well, having foreign genetic code in a person's bloodline from one of these guys is an open door, apparently. Even though there's nothing the person did to make that decision. It's like not like they said, oh yeah, I want to be part of those bloodline. They were just born that way. And so suddenly they have very advanced spiritual problems that they cannot figure out. Well, there are people that have been under the worst kind of attack their whole life, and they're like, no matter how many deliverance sessions I go through, no matter how many times I go to the altar at church, no matter how many people I pray for me, I just can't get free of this overwhelming attack. What's going on in my life? Well, sometimes you're dealing with the fact that your very genetics have encoded into them this back door to heavenly powers. And so when I'm getting people free, it often does have to go that deep. Now, I've separated people from a lot of heavenly powers. I actually even have a whole teaching on how to get set free of these guys. I have something on my website called the Principality Prayer, which is relatively effective. But in doing some of this ministry, like I have two individuals, both of them were implicated with Thoth. And I actually did a couple of interviews featuring the both of them, and they were in relation to Montauk because both of these individuals were used at Montauk, both survivors of Montauk, and both have stories that corroborate one the other. It's just incredible. The description of the chair is the same. The way they traveled is the same. People involved, the same. I mean, it is right down the line. And one of the phenomenal things that we watched happen is that as I got these individuals set free of Thoth, there were corresponding, and it sounds crazy, but it's just what happened. There were corresponding hurricanes, both of them striking the what was that island? Something. Goodness gracious, I can't pull it from memory right now. But anyway, they both struck the same island. And the thing about this island was that they had like caves with like drawings and all alluding to these ancient guys. It's just really, really bizarre. And if people go back and listen to our podcast with them, they can get the full story because we actually take time and explain it and have all the dates and timings and tell the whole story the way it actually happened, which I like. It's not in my mind organized right now. But what I'm saying is sometimes when you deal with these high level things, the earth responds. It's wild. And in the spirit, both of them were able to see Thoth's throne room. It has a checkerboard floor. It's really interesting. He has like baboons that are in there. He keeps people, male and female escorts, and he has all kinds of things. And so his throne room actually got raided twice, back to back, as I was getting these individuals set free. And there was a good deal of judgment that he suffered because we commanded it as we were getting stuff set free. And so it was really funny because the first time we raided those realm and throne room, they didn't see it coming. And there was like a whirlwind the angels had created like in his throne room and tore all this stuff up. When I went back after him the second time with the other individual, his army was actually waiting at the gate trying to resist what we were going to do because they knew it was coming. And they still lost. It was kind of silly, actually. So Jesus really has all the power. He's just, I mean, he dominates the ancients 7 days a week. And in his name, you know, it is true that he has disarmed principalities and powers, triumphing over them, making an open show of them in it. And but yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot having to do with the ancients. I've had to deal with Anubis a number of times, as well as like Set. And Nut, and so anyway, that's I guess what I'm going to say for now.
Well, I think we should tie this together with the whole premise, Carolyn, what you were just writing about with the return of the ancient ones, because in my opinion, that is part of the strong delusion that we are warned about in the scriptures. And this is the premise that is being established, set up by the ancient aliens, and, you know, all those that are not getting answer and finding guidance and direction within the mainstream churches. They're leaving in droves and they're looking to new age belief systems and things like the ancient aliens show for answer and guidance on how to understand the ancient mysteries in connection to what's going on with world. And so in my opinion, they're being totally set up to bow down to these alien gods.
Yes, that was my experience from in the spiritual hierarchy, that Lucifer's the head. That's Satan. Some of the information that one of the things about the ancients is that they like to drink gold in their water, and that some of the humans, felt like it helped if they drank gold in their water, it would make them closer to the gods, and that they would have the life force of the gods. I'm looking at thinking about this in terms that we may be starting to see more people talking about gold and the benefits of gold, and people wanting to drink gold in their water. This may have something to do with what I just said. And then and also that the ancients do want to revive the old order, and like they're going to resurrect the old order, like a resurrection from the dead. And they're going to tell people, just like what you said, Zen, that the ancients, that they are the ancients and they've returned. This is just one part of the plan.
Right.
That there's other groups that'll come in saying something different, but they're all going to be united. And one thing they're united, one thing they do not will not be united. Okay, they're united against Christ, Jesus Christ. They're antichrist. So anything that
Yes.
has to do with Jesus Christ, the salvation, which is God's true plan, they are all going to be against it. And there's a reason. There's a reason for that. It's because they serve the Satan. So they're going to claim that they are royalty. These beings are going to claim they have royalty, and that that humans have been theirs from the beginning, and that they've been watching us and taking care of us from the beginning.
Yeah, that they
And people,
created us.
yeah,
Right.
and they're already wanting people to
Hmm.
think that they're going to call attention to their ancient bloodline and those in the present day that are of that ancient bloodline. So some of the information that I was given was that Anubis may come first, one that is known as Anubis, to return kind of like as a forerunner, like a type of John the Baptist. And that some are going to be claimed, some are going to claim they came from the stars, and they're going to walk in like they will walk into a human being in their bloodline and take that being over, and they will not they will make it known that's what they're doing, and they can actually change their bodies to look like that, look like the way they want to, the DNA. So also other information is that was given. I don't know if this is absolutely true, because I didn't know anybody by the name of, I didn't know Thoth, the name of Thoth in Satan's spiritual hierarchy, but the information was that Thoth is one of Lucifer's top, and that Osiris wants people to think that he's God, will want people to think he's God, or at least the son of God. And my last point here is that if we keep tethered to the mind and heart of God, that things may be getting tricky coming up in the near future, but that God does have a plan for us, and if we stay tethered to Him, to God's plan, that God's plan will unfold for each one of us, and it's an eternal plan. This is not just, you know, our life, and when we die, there's nothing, or that there's eternal plan that God has for us.
Yes, and that the Most High, the Father and the Son, are extending, offering salvation to each of us, an eternal inheritance, something that none of these ancient aliens, fallen angels, reptilians, ancient ones, none of them can offer or give the gift of eternal life to any of us. Only the Most High God, the Father and the Son, Yeshua, Jesus Christ, who died on the cross in order to give us a forgiveness of sins and to rectify the fall, to give us redemption and to show us the way home. He is the way and the truth and the life, and that's the difference between him and all of these ascended masters, ancient aliens, rebel angels, fallen angels, who are only parading as if they are gods, but they are not. They are just simply fallen angels. Um, uh, Carolyn, I want to give both you and Daniel a chance for final commentary. Let's go to you first, Daniel, and then we'll go to Carolyn. We've got about 5, maybe 6 minutes remaining.
Okay, the island that I couldn't remember the name of was Long Island, Bahamas. That was something. So, anyway, well, here's what I have to say. This conversation that we're having is actually a lot more relevant than people think.
Right.
It's relevant because there's a lot of people that have problems that they cannot put their finger on because no one's gone deep enough to show them where their problems lie. You just have a bunch of people suffering.
Right.
And you know, I just want to remind people that just because if you're going through something really, really tough, some kind of, you know, your whole life has been under attack ever since you've been born, you just can't put your finger on it. How does this make sense? There is an explanation, even if you haven't heard it yet. Furthermore, there is a solution, even if no one's explained it to you yet. And everything that's created solutions for Carolyn's life and other survivors I work with is based on the power of Jesus Christ. Plain and simple. There's nothing that I do that I could do apart from Jesus. To get someone set free of these powers, to get someone's genetics cleansed. These are elements that it just demonstrations of the power of God, because Jesus Christ wants people set free. And you know, Jesus isn't intimidated by anything that we're talking about today. He's not intimidated by the ancients, not intimidated by the reptiles. He's not intimidated by Lucifer. He's not. He's actually got power that can handle all of it. And I want to encourage people that there is a way to tap into that. Even if you haven't experienced it yet, I'm telling you, it's out there and it's available, because you know what? There is someone that's seen that power at work. Carolyn's one of them. She's been set free of so many things. Even the reptilian issue, we got it out of her life with the power of Jesus. What makes Carolyn anymore? That's been replaced by the blueprint of Jesus. And so I just want to encourage people. Some of the things we talk about kind of scary, yeah. Weird, absolutely. Um, but there is a reason, and ultimately that reason is that Jesus is in the business of redeeming people from the uttermost. So that's all I wanted to say, Zen. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, no problem at all. Thank you. And I would also remind people, especially those that are new to Carolyn's story, is that she is and was an insider, that she was part of the establishment, what she calls the establishment, and working for the plan, the dark side, the Illuminati factions, which have been warring against us, ruling in the shadows and pushing forth the agenda for the New World Order. And so, um, really, she is a miracle in that she has been able to come out of those families and to break ties with all of those powers and all of those allegiances, and to shift and to turn away from all of that, and to stand with Christ and to accept the truth of his being Savior Messiah, and to give us an insight on what they, as the eye at the top of the Illuminati pyramid, and then the secret societies and the agencies which are working in tangent together to push the New World Order and the agenda of all of the things that we are talking about here, even with the strong delusion, because even though most people think it's just only about world government, they are establishing that for um, the reign of the Antichrist, and that the real purpose is to bring forth the Antichrist to rule over all of that. Carolyn, we got just 1 minute remaining. Did you want to respond to what I just said?
No, I think that's excellent. I appreciate that. I don't have any other closing thoughts. Thank you.
Well, thank
Um,
you, Carolyn. Go ahead, Daniel.
I think there's a, because I've had my eye on the chat during this, and so there is a question about identifying. Um, I don't know. I guess if this is your problem, and the question is it a blood type? Um, I think that's a really good question. I know for a fact, like Carolyn said, that there is something about the blood that's just so significant. Bloodliners. I think though that what's going to get a person really close to the truth is beginning to investigate their family tree.
Mm-hmm.
Who is in your family tree? And if you begin to run into royals, Dutch royals, families of power and influence in Europe, various countries, the Germanic ruling bloodlines. You're really going to be landing on the information that's going to say, okay, yeah, this is likely going to be part of my problem. I'm going to have to figure out how to get set free of the, what's been seeded into my bloodline with the power of Jesus.
Right. And if you have a lot of Freemasonic stuff, that's a sign too. God bless all. Good night. Thank you, Daniel and Carolyn. We'll be with you again next week, so everybody stay tuned. God bless all. Peace.